Jen, legitimately on this question, it's a great question, so please do cut me off after a little bit. So great question, Dan, and so to your very point, the question is, when we introduce legislation, big ticket legislation, there are possibilities that we have unintended consequences. I don't want to say I was involved in the drafting, but I was involved in the review of the draft as the bill was made. I'll have to go back and read it. I don't read the bill as what the Senate bill would do as limiting the ability of political subdivisions to utilize the platforms. If that is in there and that is an unintended consequence, I think that's something we want to fix. That we want to fix, and that's the great part about the process is we have a subcommittee on the bill, and now we have a possibility to fix it in the committee process. So I would like to just hopefully ease your concerns there. That if that bill does that, which I don't read it to, but if it does, that's something that we probably can and should fix, because I have no interest in limiting the ability of people to use these platforms. The bill that we have in the Senate, I love the bill. And I was fortunate enough to be the first person that got handed as we went around the room, we have every member of the Senate, except for the majority leader and one of our members who is on active duty military, signed on as a co-sponsor of that bill. And I was the first co-sponsor on that bill. This is a great bill. And I gave, I think, a really good speech on the floor in the first or second week of the session, talking about these very issues. The First Amendment protects against government discrimination and infringement on speech. And Facebook and Twitter and all of these things, they're not government actors. So they can, they frankly can limit, the content of speech and stuff like that. Government can't discriminate against content and viewpoint. What we have, though, is the public square has become the new public square. And social media is the new public square. And by virtue of the number of people in the world, in the billions that utilize social media, it has, in effect, become the new public square. And so should we be discriminating against speech that we disagree with? Now, I'm a First Amendment purist, so I don't think we should be, frankly, discriminating against any speech. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are upset me with when I say this. I think you have a constitutionally protected right to burn the American flag and make pornography. I think it's very unwise, I think it's very unpatriotic, but I think you have the right to do it. When we get in the business of choosing content and viewpoint, that is dangerous. And we have a whole host of cases. Parades. Should the Nazis be allowed to march in the parade in Skokie, Illinois? Should LGBTQ people be able to march in the parade, in the Catholic parade in Boston? These are difficult questions that we have to address, and we cannot be afraid to tackle them. And we cannot be afraid of viewpoints that are different than ours. And so what we have is, we have a de facto end around the First Amendment by big tech groups that are silencing speech and chilling speech that they disagree with. And that is wrong, and it is dangerous to our republic. And so this bill puts these people on notice. Stop doing what you're doing. President Trump threatened to veto the appropriations bills because he wanted Section 230 removed. And the Congress said, well, forget that, we're going to override it. That's the process, I get that. When Republicans get back into power, these big tech companies, mark my words, Section 230 being removed and your liability protection will be the least of your concerns, because the monopolies will be busted up. So Mark Zuckerberg, enjoy your money while you have it. We're going to bust you up. You can say that's anti-capitalist or whatever, but we have insidious behavior coming from these countries, and it is a threat to our republic and our very existence. So this bill in particular, I think, is a great bill. And what this bill does is this. If these big tech companies want to have all manner of great tax breaks and grants and taxpayer subsidized benefits come to them, don't discriminate against people's speech. And if you want to discriminate against people's speech, go ahead. We are not going to give you taxpayer money to continue to do it. And so that is simply what the bill is. That's the teeth. So I have no interest in limiting the ability of a political subdivision or a community college from utilizing the platform. I utilize the thing. I get hacked by Zuckerberg tonight. But I've got Facebook, I've got Twitter, and frankly, if I wasn't in this business, I'd be off it, because it's despicable what social media is doing to our society and to our culture and the fact that people can hide behind anonymous accounts and wish that people choke to death in COVID. So, sorry, Sharifa, to get up on my high horse here, but to the big tech people out there, I hope we advance this bill out of the Commerce Committee this week. I serve on it. I will enthusiastically vote for it, and be on notice that the state of Iowa will not allow you to discriminate against content and viewpoint. Don't be scared of allowing your forums to be used for speech, and it protects it, and it specifically carves out those things. The thing, you know, it's the movie theater speech. The things that the courts have recognized aren't protected speech. Threatening people, you know, with harm, and you know, those sorts of things are not protected speech, and so there are ways to limit that. But we also have, and so then I think Representative Jones said, well, just don't use the platform if you don't like it. Well, this is even more insidious than this, is Apple and Google Play are preventing people from downloading other alternative platforms on their phone. I don't know if that's still the case, but I was never on this because I really don't like social media, but this thing called Parler was apparently the alternative to these big, you know, Facebook and stuff. Google and Apple and all these other outfits and Amazon were preventing you from accessing it, you know, through your phone and the app. So maybe you have to use it through the browser. Well, maybe Google decides they want to ban your access to the browser. So there's a lot of stuff happening here, and I promise the least of my interest is doing anything to harm the ability of schools and community colleges to use text messaging in these platforms. So that's my high horse, and I'm going to ride that home, and we're going to pass this bill. And big tech, you're on notice. Stop discriminating against content and viewpoint that you disagree with, and allow the people to speak.
Right,